Ancient warfare. Before 500 AD, warfare in the ancient world was not just a matter of survival, but a reflection of the political, cultural, and technological landscapes of early civilizations. Long before the rise of modern armies and machines, ancient warfare relied on human strength, discipline, and clever strategies crafted with the tools available at the time. From the Mesopotamian plains around 3000 BCE to the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD, warfare evolved as societies grew more complex and as kingdoms, city-states, and empires vied for dominance over land, resources, and influence. Early wars were often fought between rival tribes or neighboring cities. These conflicts usually revolved around territorial disputes, trade access, or even religious differences. In the earliest recorded wars, like those between Sumerian city-states such as Lagash and Umma, armies were largely composed of conscripted farmers, fighting seasonally under the command of local rulers or priests. Their weapons were primitive: stone-tipped spears, clubs, and later bronze tools. But even at this early stage, the foundation of organized combat was laid. As metallurgy advanced, so too did the quality of weapons and armor. Bronze gave way to iron, allowing for stronger, more durable swords, spearheads, and arrow tips. The emergence of organized standing armies allowed empires like Egypt, Assyria, and later Persia to train soldiers specifically for combat, rather than rely solely on part-time militias. These professional soldiers became crucial in expanding and maintaining empires. The Assyrians, for example, used psychological warfare in tandem with military innovation, combining iron weapons, siege engines, and calculated terror tactics to subdue enemy populations. Their armies were not only fierce in open battle, but terrifying in sieges, known for impaling prisoners and displaying heads as warnings. They were among the first to systematically apply siege techniques, using battering rams, tunnels, and massive archery volleys to break through city defenses. Meanwhile, in Egypt, chariots became a dominant force in their military campaigns, especially during the New Kingdom period. Pulled by fast horses and crewed by skilled archers, chariots provided speed and shock power that infantry alone couldn't match. In the Aegean world, the Greeks introduced the phalanx, a dense, disciplined formation of hoplites armed with long spears and large, round shields. The phalanx relied heavily on unit cohesion and mutual protection, where each man's shield covered his neighbor. This method created a formidable wall of spears and shields, difficult to penetrate unless the formation was broken. Greek city-states like Sparta took this to an extreme, training boys from childhood to be warriors, resulting in a fearsome and loyal fighting force. Greek warfare was also influenced by a deep sense of honor and religious duty. Battles were often preceded by sacrifices to the gods, and many warriors believed that dying bravely in combat secured their legacy and favor with the divine. Though the phalanx was highly effective in flat, open terrain, its rigid nature made it vulnerable to more flexible opponents, a weakness that later military minds would exploit. Rome, rising in the centuries following the Greek classical period, revolutionized ancient warfare through organization, engineering, and adaptability. The Roman legion replaced the phalanx with a more dynamic and versatile formation. Divided into cohorts and centuries, legions could maneuver independently, allowing Roman commanders to react to battlefield developments in real time. Roman soldiers were heavily trained and drilled, enabling complex battlefield movements and a high degree of unit discipline. The gladius, a short stabbing sword, paired with the scutum, a large rectangular shield, allowed legionaries to fight effectively in tight formations. Roman military engineers were unmatched in their time, building roads, bridges, and fortifications that not only supported their war efforts, but left a lasting infrastructure legacy. Their ability to lay sieges, build siege ramps, and construct temporary camps every night gave them a logistical edge over most opponents. Ancient warfare was not only fought on land. Naval power became critical for maritime civilizations, and sea battles were often just as decisive as those on land. The Greeks and later the Romans developed large navies comprised of oared galleys equipped for ramming and boarding. The Greek trireme, with 3 tiers of oars and a bronze ram at the prow, was a key instrument in victories such as the Battle of Salamis, where Themistocles led the outnumbered Athenian fleet to a historic victory over the Persians. Naval tactics often involved close-quarter combat after ramming disabled an enemy ship. The Romans, initially inexperienced at sea, adapted by inventing the corvus, a boarding bridge that turned naval battles into infantry fights, playing to their strengths in close combat. Control of the seas allowed empires to protect trade routes, invade distant lands, and move troops swiftly across vast distances. Another defining feature of ancient warfare was the role of cavalry. Though initially underused in Western armies, cavalry came to prominence with Eastern nomadic peoples such as the Scythians and later the Parthians, who mastered the use of mounted archers. These fast-moving units could strike from a distance and retreat before infantry could engage. The Parthian shot, a tactic in which a retreating rider turned to fire arrows, became a symbol of their mobility and tactical cunning. Eventually, even the Romans integrated auxiliary cavalry units into their forces to counter such threats. Horses also played critical roles in communication, supply transport, and the mobility of commanders. Religion was deeply intertwined with warfare in the ancient world. Victories and defeats were often attributed to divine favor or punishment. Many armies carried sacred objects or standards believed to embody the protection of gods. Roman legions, for example, held their eagles, aquila, as sacred symbols of unity and honor, and losing one in battle was a disgrace. Omens, oracles, and rituals were consulted before major campaigns, and sacrifices were common to gain favor from deities. Warriors often believed their gods were fighting with them, or that dying in battle brought eternal reward or honor in the afterlife. This spiritual dimension of combat added an emotional and psychological layer to ancient warfare, influencing decisions and morale. Great commanders of antiquity, such as Alexander the Great, Hannibal Barca, and Julius Caesar, left lasting legacies not only because of their battlefield success, but because of their strategic brilliance and ability to inspire loyalty. Alexander led campaigns stretching from Greece to India, winning nearly every battle through speed, surprise, and brilliant tactics. Hannibal's crossing of the Alps to strike at the heart of Rome remains one of history's most audacious military maneuvers. At Cannae, he enveloped a much larger Roman army, delivering one of the most devastating defeats Rome ever suffered. Caesar, through both his military conquests and political maneuvering, expanded Rome's territory and influence dramatically. His writings, such as Commentari de Bello Gallico, served both as military accounts and propaganda tools, securing his legacy as a genius strategist and communicator. Ancient weapons were simple by modern standards, but deadly in capable hands. Spears, javelins, short swords, and bows were the most common. The use of slings, particularly by Balearic troops, added variety to ranged attacks. Armor ranged from basic leather and bronze breastplates to chainmail and segmented iron armor like the Roman larica segmentata. Helmets often featured crests or decorations indicating rank or unit, and shields were not just defensive tools, but also a canvas for symbolic imagery. Standardization of equipment allowed for more efficient training and supply, especially in large imperial armies like Rome's. The psychological toll of ancient warfare was immense. Battles often ended in massacres, enslavement, or total destruction of enemy cities. Prisoners of war were frequently sold into slavery or executed, and looting was standard practice. Despite the brutality, warfare was also a path to social mobility, honor, and political power. Victorious generals could become kings or emperors, and military success was a key requirement for leadership in many ancient societies. For ordinary soldiers, the promise of land, spoils, and glory was a powerful motivator. Yet, For every triumphant return, there were countless nameless dead buried on forgotten battlefields. By the time 500 AD approached, the ancient world had undergone massive transformations. The Western Roman Empire had fallen, leaving a fragmented Europe open to new powers. While the tools and weapons of ancient warfare might appear outdated compared to modern machines, the principles of discipline, logistics, leadership, and adaptation were firmly established during this era. These lessons would be carried forward into medieval and modern warfare, making the ancient battlefield not just a place of blood and glory, but a classroom of military evolution that shaped human history for millennia.